murdered your best friend or your family member, would it be legal for you to go and kill that person? Right. So then, why is it legal for the government to do this? As Martin Luther King said, the law of an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind. It's immoral because it seeks to humiliate the opponent rather than win his understanding, and it seeks to annihilate rather than to convert. And I think this is a very good quote from him and a very good point, because what he's saying is that instead of putting this person in jail or making them understand why what they did was wrong, they're just basically humiliating them. Like if you go back to the original way that people used to use this, they would do it out in public to humiliate the person rather than to have an explanation for why they did it. In the next slide, I'm going to talk about the overview and statistics. What is the death penalty? What qualifies somebody for the death penalty? And needs to go on with that. Okay. The death penalty is also called capital punishment, and basically what it is it's a punishment for a crime which involves killing a person for the crime. So 36 presently allow this practice, and the number of executions since 1976 is 1,439. There is an average of 5 exonerations per year, and exonerations are basically figuring out that that person wasn't responsible for the crime and they're not guilty. So these people are on death row. They're going to die, and then they've been exonerated, and there's 5 per year. So that's a pretty big deal. Last year, 49 people were sentenced to death in the United States, and I would like to point out that the only other industrialized country that does the death penalty is Japan. No other countries do this. They think it's too barbaric and that we should not do it anymore. Since the year 1976, Texas has sentenced 538 people to death, so they're like a large amount of that. And I would also like to point out with the last thing that I said that okay, I'm going to go to the next slide. Okay, the financial issues are on the next slide, and basically, you see all these numbers thrown out up here: $4,000, $4 billion, $186 million, $51 million, $24 million, $2.3 million. So if you think about it, this last one here says in Texas, a death penalty case costs an average of $2.3 million if they've executed over 500 people. And since that time, think about how much money that has accumulated and when we could be using other methods. Okay, in the next slide, I'm going to be talking about the requirements and regulations. Okay, so this came straight out of the book about how it goes, but basically it consists of 3 chemicals, and the first chemical will, the first chemical puts the person to sleep. It's just anesthesia, whatever you get for regular surgery. The second chemical paralyzes you, and then the third chemical shuts your organs down. So this doesn't always work out like it's supposed to. There's been cases where people have still been awake and can feel the pain for up to 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. And they can feel the pain, and when you're in the room, there's this little screen and there's people on the other side that can watch this happen. People have to watch, there has to be witnesses, and so they can see this person in pain. There's a priest there that's watching this. This person, this human being is feeling all of this pain. And then after that, the number and B there, and C, the person that is actually in charge of putting the chemicals into the criminal, they are the prison warden. So they're not medically trained. They're taking a needle and putting it into somebody's vein. Sometimes they miss. Sometimes it doesn't go in a vein. And the only thing that is carried out by a doctor is the amount of chemicals that get sent in. And, okay, I remember what I was going to say before now. Okay, so the chemicals, other countries, since they don't allow this anymore, used to we would get the chemicals from other countries, but they put a ban on these chemicals. So some states such as Oklahoma, I think Oklahoma is the big one, they've had a lot of botched death penalties, and these people in Oklahoma will make their own chemicals. So they don't know exactly if they're doing this right. And they make their own chemicals and then they put it in the person not knowing if it's going to have the effect that they want it to have. So, okay, and then another thing that these rules say is that it has to be carried out a year after the sentencing because that'll give, or 100 days after the sentencing because that'll give them time to figure out if the person is guilty or not, just to make sure. And then it has to be carried out before sunrise of the day that they assign it. Okay, these are the legal forms of the death penalty. These are also legal. Hanging, electrocution, gas chamber, firing squad, and since 1976, there's been 11 people sentenced to death in the gas chamber, 158 electrocutions. All of these things are still legal, although the main form is lethal injection, and the way that the other 4 can be involved is if they say it's unconstitutional. So 34 states in the United States government use lethal injection as their main method. And then I've noticed that a lot of the states that will do the other ones are southern states, and sometimes they don't think I guess they don't think it's right. They think it's cruel and unusual to use lethal injection, so they'll use the other ones. And on the next slide, I'm going to talk about alternatives and opinions from the public. Alternatives include life without parole, life with parole, and life without parole plus restitution. And basically restitution, you can't replace somebody's life with money, but it's basically giving them money for what you caused their family to go through, counseling, things like that. And then this is one of the most important things that I found. The death penalty was ranked among the last ways to reduce like harsh crime. So it doesn't even, they don't think it makes that big of an impact on people seeing that people are getting murdered over their crimes. And it's the least efficient use of taxpayers' money. So, do you guys think it should be legal for the death penalty?
All right, floor is open for questions.
Hannah. Oh, wait. Oh, wait.
Okay, so you said something about how, like, they shouldn't do death penalty because they need to know, like, what they did was wrong. But, like,